What kind of careers do you think will be the most important in the future? And what should someone my age start learning about?
Yeah, so I think in the future, you're going to see a lot of what I would call technical careers in terms of automation, engineering, of environmental sciences. And I would also focus on my softer skills and my people skills because, you can be really technically focused and be really smart, but you don't really create value unless you can leverage that by working with people and working in teams.
In this episode, my guest is Mrs. Jennifer Maki. She's a board member at Pan American Silver in Franco, Nevada. Thanks, Miss Jennifer, for joining me today. So for the first question, could you please introduce yourself and share about what you do?
Sure. I'm Jennifer Maki, and I'm a corporate director working primarily in the mining and energy space. My whole entire career, I've worked in the mining industry, and I held progressively senior positions. I was the CFO at Vale Base Metals for 7 years. And then I turned into the executive director of Vale Base Metals and the CEO of Vale Canada for my last 3 years in terms of executive roles. And I left that at the end of 2017. And in 2019, I embarked on the second phase of my career as a corporate director. And as you said, today I'm a director at Pan American Silver, Franco, Nevada, and Baytex Energy.
Thank you. What exactly is a CFO?
A chief financial officer. So I'm in charge of all the accounting and the raising funds to keep the business going, making sure we have adequate controls in place in terms of safeguarding the assets, looking at the taxation of the company and making sure that's in order, and also helping in terms of the strategy and making sure that we're getting a good return to shareholders.
Okay. And looking back, what did you study, and do you think it played an important role in your career?
Yes, for sure. I pretty knew early much in high school that I wanted to be an accountant, but I wanted to make sure I had some broad business skills. So I did a business degree, and I have a Bachelor of Commerce. And when I graduated from there, I went on to do a specialization in accounting, and I became a chartered accountant. And I joined one of the big accounting firms. And I spent 10 years there working predominantly in the mining industry before I joined one of my major clients at the time.
How did you decide that you wanted to be an accountant?
Well, I really had a liking for math. So I was taking a lot of math courses, and I took an accounting course, and it just became a passion of mine. And, it just felt right, and I never looked back, and I don't have any regrets because it was a good stepping stone. And in the big firms, when you work in the big firms, you get exposure to lots of different industries. Like I did some work on major manufacturing companies like Nike. I worked in mutual funds. I worked in mining. So you got to try a lot of industries. And then, I found my passion for mining, and I specialized in mining, but I was exposed to many different industries before that.
If you had to choose right now, do you think you would study something different or the same?
No, I don't have any regrets. I'm very happy with what I chose and how, my career evolved. I think I started off with a very focused specialization in accounting, but became a much broader finance professional and then a even broader business leader. So, I think it's important to kind of have goals and to keep growing your own skills as you advance your career.
What kind of careers do you think will be the most important in the future? And what should someone my age start learning about to be ready for them?
Yeah, so I think in the future, you're going to see a lot of what I would call technical careers in terms of automation, in terms of engineering, in terms of environmental sciences. And so I think those are important. And I always think whether it's a base or a complement to your main career or specialization, I think it's good to have a strong financial background. Because no matter what you choose, I think it's really important to understand the finances, even if you want to start your own business and have entrepreneurial skills, having that baseline financial skill is really good. So I would focus on your maths and your sciences. But I also think critical thinking is also very important. We need people that can think, critically about today's issues facing us and figure out, the best path forward. So I would also focus on that. And I would also focus on my softer skills and my people skills because, you can be really technically focused and be really smart, but you don't really create value unless you can leverage that by working with people and working in teams. So I think I would encourage the young people to also focus on the soft skills as well, because they can become very important.
Do you think you have any habits or routines that you do daily that have helped you succeed?
I think one of the big things that helped me succeed was the focus I put every day on communicating with my team, with my superiors, with our stakeholders. I was running a global finance team for a long time and then a global business. And we had so many different stakeholders, but it's hard to be present in all those locations. But I think making time to ensure you have face-to-face contact with people and be present in their environment, in their countries is really important. So, I made sure that I was visiting all our locations and visiting our staff there and visiting our government relations and our stakeholders. And even when I wasn't there physically, I spent a lot of time in terms of picking up the phone, seeing how things were going, getting on a video call, and really adjusting to their time zones as well. So, if it was Asia, when I would go home at night, I would be on the phone with Asia, because I think it's really important to build the relationships when you have a global team with your team around the world. And, I think that's better. But also, if you're constantly communicating, you're not going to be surprised, and you don't want any surprises in terms of your business. So I think getting in that habit of making sure you have regular communication channels is really important.
What's the best overall piece of advice that someone has ever told you, and you think about it like still to this day that it has helped you a lot?
So I would say the first one is to work hard. Always make sure you're putting in a full effort. Would be one piece of advice, and I'm going to give you more than one, if that's okay. And I think when you look at your own career and your own course in terms of what you want to chart, it's about having a plan in terms of focusing on always learning and growing and adding that next skill, or looking back and reflecting, this is the feedback I have, and this is an area I need to develop further, and having a plan to close those gaps in terms of where you need extra work, where you need to develop more. But also looking forward into the future and saying, okay, well, I want to be here or I want to be there, and what skills do I need to get there? Or I see this, really important thing that's coming to our business, and I want to spend some time getting to know more about that. And so I have this new skill and value to add to the business as our business takes on this new issue. So I would say, hard work and constantly kind of upgrading your skills, and also having, as I said before, strong people skills, because really work is about working with people. And so I want to emphasize that.
So overall, just your advice would be to work hard and always have a plan to be able to reach what you need. Like, for example, you mentioned the skills that you needed.
Yes.
For specific things, and you said also listen to feedback, right? Do you think there's any times that something didn't go the way that you wanted, and you learned something from it that you think that succeeding would have never taught you?
Oh, for sure. Many times in your career, I think, you're only human if things don't always work out as you expect. And I think it's important to take time to reflect and say, what could have I done differently in this situation? And, I remember giving a presentation once thinking I would get the go-ahead to move forward with what was a financial transaction, and I didn't. And at first I was really kind of beat up. And then, did some self-reflection and talked to people, got some feedback, and realized I didn't do a very good job in terms of, the expressing the fundamental benefits of the transaction. Like, I knew them, but my presentation didn't focus on that enough. And so, there's many times in your career where things don't go as you expected, or things are harder than you expected. But I think it's important to stay focused and stay committed, but be open to listening, and that, listening to the feedback, and also that self-reflection to say, how could I get my point across differently? Because, I think 3 weeks later, I went back with the same transaction and it got approved, but it was a much better presentation with a much more focused, focused argument for why we needed to do this.
Okay. Thank you for all that advice. And Rick Rule and some others mentioned that they read some specific books that taught them a lot about life, and just for example, for Rick Rule, investing and the economy and everything. Is there any specific book or piece of media that you think is really important?
I wouldn't say there was one book. I think over my course of my career at different times, there was different books that I read, and some you're kind of focused in terms of, how to solve a specific problem or how to develop a certain skill. So, looking at, how to present better, how to work with people better. Or I remember when I got into a new role, I focused on, I read a book about the first 90 days, and what you needed to do in your new role in the first 90 days. So there wasn't one book that stands out, but I think what's important is to draw on resources at times in your career where you feel like a bit uncertain, or you feel like you want to do something and you're not quite certain on how to do it, or you've gotten some feedback that you need to improve on that. I think that's important. But what I probably found more beneficial than the books is I had an executive coach or a career coach. And for the last 3 years of my career, that was very helpful. And I would encourage, as you progress your career to have people, and sometimes it can be informal, and other times it can be very formal. Mine was very formal. We met every 3 weeks. And, I would ask my career coach in terms of, okay, well, I want to make this decision, or this is what I want to do. And she'd help me kind of figure out the most effective way to do it. Or if I was talking to her and this is the third time something that was on my mind came up, she would push me and saying, okay, I've heard about this your last 3 sessions. It's time that we actually come up with a plan to deal with this. So more so than any of the books I read, I think having that career coach or mentor, it can come in different forms, or champion, is really important. It can really help you. And I only used that really later on in my career, and I could see it benefiting you from very early on in your career. So I would encourage people to think about that early on in their career.
So what I'm taking from what you're saying right now is that your career coach helped you not only to think about how to do it, but then actually doing it, because thinking about it doesn't make a difference, right? But then if you actually do it, it makes a difference.
Exactly.
So
I remember being at a luncheon, and Jamie Dimon was speaking, and he was talking about, he knows if something comes to him on his desk kind of 3 times, that he really needs to deal with it. So it's, and I think that's just human nature, especially if it's a difficult decision to be made. Sometimes we can be slow in making the decision. And, the career coach really helped me to make some of those tough decisions and not just think about making the tough decision.
Okay, thank you. And last question quickly before we wrap up. Are there any sports or things that you like?
Oh, I love tennis. I'm a big tennis fan, a big Rafa Nadal fan. So I'm mourning his retirement, but very happy for him. And so I like to go and watch tennis. I've been to Wimbledon, the French Open, the Australian Open, the US Open, the Canadian Open. So that's one of my passions. Yes.
Thank you for tuning into Trailheads and Titans. A huge thank you to Miss Jennifer Maki for sharing your journey and insights. Your story will inspire and help many people. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow Trailheads and Titans for more conversations with leaders who are blazing new trails. Until next time.